aircraft battle.
Okay, more technical problems. Obviously, Henry is, we can tell by the picture there, Henry is just outside the Golden Gate with the
gallons of jet fuel, 31,000 gallons of lube oil, 97,000 gallons of boiler feed water, and over 104,000 gallons of fresh water. So she's very integral to the battle group. We need to have her. We unrep with her probably once a week because our ships will burn up a lot of fuel very quickly, and without her we couldn't continue on. We'd have to pull into port. In the next few minutes, Mike, you might tell us we've got some exciting things coming up from the deck of the Constellation. A few launches, right? Right. Last year we launched 3 F-18 Charlies. What they're going to do this time is they've got 7 aircraft designated, and they're going to try to launch upwards of 5 of these aircraft. And they could be, I don't have the exact configurations, but I believe they're going to be launching 2 F-18s, 1 F-14, an E-2 Charlie, and S-3, and possibly a COD. Okay. Now, have we caught up here with the ships as they're coming in, one after the other?
Yes, I believe we have.
Yes. Okay.
The Oiler, incidentally, it's an interesting operation to,
Right now it looks like they've got the S-3 spotted on one of the cats, and she's revving her up, and they'll probably launch her within a few seconds. Revving her up?
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
And that would be in...
Here she goes.
And there goes the S-3 right now. She'll be coming off the flight deck. You'll see her probably just underneath the bridge.
There she goes.
That is quite a shot when you come off the deck of an aircraft carrier. I have to tell you, you're coming off a catapult, and the catapult hitting the water buffer at the end of its run vibrates the entire ship. So no matter where you are on the ship, there is no mistake that a catapult launch just took place. And here comes the S-3 now.
We have 2 aircraft there, right?
Correct.
Okay.
The S-3s that you see are pretty versatile aircraft. They were used heavily in the past for USW. We use P-3s now in place of them, but they're very good for bringing mail on the ship. They also use tanker. They're like tanker support for what's called the Marshall Stack. When the aircraft are coming back to the carrier, they can top them off and keep them going so they have a good enough amount of fuel to land on the deck itself. They're called S-3 Vikings. So how many different aircraft are normally aboard an aircraft carrier? We've probably a total of about 89 aircraft, and right now the F-14s are slowly being phased out. In the next 5 years they'll be gone. We'll basically have the F-18 Deltas, and we'll have a mixed bag of the S-3 and also the E-2 Charlies will be around, and then there'll be a couple of Helos. So we're probably about 3 or 4 types of aircraft on board the ship, but a total of about 89 aircraft.
We saw the S-3s going by on there. You see the deck crew as they're lining them up. There is the catapult is actually attached to the nose gear of the aircraft. You'll see the nose gear compressed down. That is in preparation for the launch. You see it moving forward right now, the dolly underneath the front as they prepare the aircraft to launch. It's a very, very finely oiled machine that goes on the deck as that's happening, right, Mike?
Correct. Right now that they're hooking it up, the catapults are steam driven. Obviously, it's very, because the ship is going so slow and it's tough to get the winds across the deck. Right now they're coming off what's called the port quarter, which is not really conducive for carrier launches. We'd like to have them off the nose, 30 degrees off the nose. And so they're having to compensate for that. So what they've done is they've stripped the aircraft down, basically. There's no buddy stores, there's no fuel or any ordnance of any kind underneath the wings, and they're probably, once they get off the deck, they'll do one flyby, and then they'll probably beat feet and return home. You know, either Lemoore or some other designated port for them. When they're launching aircraft after aircraft, how many second delay in between each launch? Well, a cycle, we call them cycles, basically, and they might have anywhere from 11 to 15 aircraft in each cycle, and they can turn around those in about 30 minutes. Total of, it takes about 4 minutes once they get the aircraft off to space them, get them hooked up and then revved up, and then make sure everything's good to go, and then they'll take off from there. Is that just with F-18s? That's with every aircraft, basically. Every aircraft.
We're looking at the aircraft on the deck right now, and here he goes. That looks like an F-A-18 blasting off. You saw the thumbs up from the pilot momentarily, and that says, I'm ready. And he braces himself for that landing shot, or that takeoff shot, and then the deck attendant immediately signals that on and releases him. Some of them have quite a few gymnastics that they go through out there, Mike. It's quite a sight to watch them as they release the aircraft.
Right now you can see underneath his belly he's got one buddy store, we call it. He's got a tank full of extra fuel underneath that he can use to, once he gets off, he's probably sucking about 80 pounds per minute. They do what's called a military loiter. Obviously, we're not going to break any windows. We do Mach 1. We try to keep it around 350 knots. But when they're on the deck of the aircraft carrier, they're actually revved up, full throttled off, ready to go, and because they need all the inertia they can to get off the deck of the ship itself.
I'll tell you something, it is an amazing sight when you're on the Golden Gate. Here we go with another F-18 off the deck of the Constellation.
If you can look in the rear of the aircraft, you'll see two burners that are coming off, two purplish reddish lights. Those are the afterburners. So that when the pilot's actually throttling off, he's got both afterburners kicked off, and he's actually generating the most thrust per ratio, or pounds per thrust ratio that he can with that aircraft to generate enough speed to get off the carrier itself.
The wingtip vortices that you see coming from the end are the result of expanded air. A lot of people call it compressed, but it's expanded air actually, and the water condenses inside that expanded air, which gives the coming from the rear of the aircraft as it goes by.
Would you say, Gordon?
I know, I was there.
Maybe at home they could hear what you had to say. I don't think Mike and I could.
Look at that, going to
That
the
is so
vertical there and
amazing.
rolling around. He's disappearing rapidly into the air, and he embarked from San Diego, and right now he's probably waving to his mom.
I started to say a few minutes ago, I've been lucky enough to be on the Golden Gate in years past when the Blue Angels always take a moment or two to buzz the drivers across the bridge. And one year, I was even lucky enough to be on the bridge as they went under. It was like an incredible sight.
If I'm not sure exactly where Henry is on board the Constellation, but if he were up on top of that mast there's only about 9 feet of clearance between the top of that mast and the top of the bridge, so he would have had to duck.
Yeah, I guess you have to measure those things carefully when you're talking about a Navy aircraft carrier, don't you, Mike?
Oh yeah, and it's kind of neat to tie in with the Kaiser class oiler in front. When the carrier goes alongside one of these ships, she basically can suck her dry. And what Gordon was referring to as far as an unrep at sea, we're probably the best of it in any country in the world. We started in World War II, but the Russians tried to copy us, and they basically do it from a stern refueling device to the side. We go side by side, so we can actually refuel 2 ships at one time and probably take some helos on another ship. So every man on that Kaiser class right there is being used when we're going alongside for an unrep. Looks like they've got an F-14 up on the Cat, and she's ready to go. And there she goes.
There's the Tomcat.
Coming off the deck of the USS Constellation.
Tomcat, the F-14, has been around for a long time, since about 1973. The airplane underwent an evolution recently, and they've actually renamed it in some of the squadrons the Bombcat. And she's now reconfigured actually for air-to-ground operations. But look at that magnificent aircraft. Both afterburners going full there. You probably noticed also as she went by, the wings started in the fully extended position, and as she came by us, the wings were sweeping backward. The wings actually sweep backward on the Tomcat, and that allows them to go from a low-speed mode to a high-speed mode, and you saw that evolution just as they were coming by us there.
More coverage of the parade of ships.